Here. Welcome to Rodeo Day. Rodeo Day here at RSCVA. We're big supporters of the Reno Rodeo. We like to wear our attire in spirit. You've all been given your stars to wear, your badges. Please wear them with honor. Mr. Farahi, if you could please take your seat. Did you bring a razor, sir? I got a little extra morning grow. All right. We'll call to order the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority regular board meeting for Thursday, June 22nd. At this time, Mr. Olson, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Olson. All right. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Mr. Nat Caraselli. Here. Mr. John Farahi. Thank you. Mr. Michael Hicks. Mr. Ed Lassen.
Here.
Mr. Bob Lucy.
Here.
Mr. Rick Murdoch. Mayor Hillary Sheevy is going to be calling in.
Great.
Mr. Bill Wood. And Mr. John Vineyard. Actually, Mr. John Vineyard is supposed to be out today. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have a quorum today for the agenda. This time, we will open public comment. Is there anybody signed in that would like to sign in for public comment? I have no card signed in at this time. All right, seeing no public comment. Before we move to the approval of the agenda this morning, I want to make a brief statement, brief comment. I'd like to, we have one of the things here at this board that's it's a tremendous honor to support is the RSCVA and our staff within RSCVA. And today, one of our esteemed members of our staff will be receiving an award today, that award is for the Thomas C. Wilson Lifetime Achievement Award, and she will be the Ad Person of the Year. Our own Mrs. Jennifer Cunningham will be receiving said award today. So congratulations to you. A big round of applause. We're very proud of you, Ms. Cunningham. You've done a phenomenal job for us here at the RSCVA, and obviously it continues to show tremendously throughout the nation with these type of awards. So thank you. Congratulations on that. All right. At this time, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. I have a motion by Mr. Hicks.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lawson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. We're on to approval of minutes of the May 25th, 2017 Board of Directors meeting. I have a motion by Mr. Hicks. A second by Mr. Murdoch. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed.
Abstain. I wasn't here.
An abstention by Mr. Farahi. Yes, please. Mayor Sheevy? Mayor Sheevy, can you hear us? Can you hear now?
Well, that caused it.
Oh. No? All right, well, we need to turn that down a little bit. Mayor Sheevy?
Hear me now?
Hello.
All right. Well, we're going to... Mayor Sheevy, we're going to continue on. If you need, let us know, and we'll stop. And if you need to add something we're going to work on the technical difficulties and try to figure out what's going on. All right, at this time, we're going to move on to General Government Division. So we have Miss Mindy Elliott here with us for the RSCVA Legislative Wrap-Up with Capital Partners. Good morning, Mrs. Elliott.
Good morning, Mr. Lucy. Thank you so much, Chairman.
We can hear you now, Mary Shiva. You got us?
Okay. Hi.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. For the record, Mindy Elliott with Capital Partners. And yes, this is your legislative wrap-up. We made it. I, too, would like to congratulate Ms. Cunningham on your award. We worked a lot together over the past few months, so it's wonderful. What I've done this morning, we have a narrative in your packet for you, the actual list of bills and the reports. I'm going to get that over to Mr. Kennedy, Mr. DeLone, Mrs. Cunningham, and to Mr. Rivers. And what we're going to do is they'll be able to hot link through to the bills. For instance, I'll give you an example. There's a requirement in public places that you have to have baby changing tables. I don't think that that's something it's more operational in nature. So we'll get those bills. There's approximately 51 bills that we'll be getting over to you, and we're going to prioritize and we're in the process of doing that right now. So just an overview of the session. It was a record-setting session. There was 1,235 bill draft requests. Total bills introduced were 1,084. There were 524 in the Assembly and 560 in the Senate. Total bills passed were 606. So you can imagine we're still trying to work through, because a lot of this came through at the very end of the session. The bills passed as a percentage of bills introduced were 56%. Registered lobbyists were 1,041 at the end of the day. There were 1,041 of us. Governor vetoes are 41, the second highest in the history of the legislative session. The highest is 50, and that was by Governor Givens. So Governor Sandoval vetoed 41. We adjourned June 6th, sine die. As you can imagine, you probably saw the headlines towards the end. Things got a little raucous. There was an issue when the CIP came out, and it was requiring a 2/3 vote. That construction bill had in there the engineering school for the University of Nevada, as well as it had a veterans home up here in Reno. So the Republicans originally were going to vote no against all of the budget bills in order to leverage that they were hoping for the ESAs. Well, when everything blew up, everything literally went upside down. And finally, Governor Sandoval brought everyone in. And at the end of the day, I think the winner here during the session, if you have to pick a winner or loser, is Governor Sandoval. Everything that he put into place in 2015 remained intact. And more importantly, they weren't able to roll anything back. And he was able to expand both education and workforce development, which really leverages his vision of a new Nevada. So for the RSCVA, workforce development, continuing to attract good businesses, attracting people to our region was in the forefront for Governor Sandoval and for many of the legislators, especially in the North. And that is remained and stayed intact. So for Governor Sandoval, I think he had a very good session. I want to highlight some of the bills that I felt that the board would be of interest in. Senate Bill 187, that is a bill, we talked about it last meeting, where the Nevada Museum of Art, there was a bill that was going to provide $10 million, $5 million to the Museum of Art in the North, $5 million to a new Museum of Art in the South. The bill actually did pass, was signed by the governor, but the $10 million is now only $1 million. But the Museum of Art will receive $500,000 to assist to leverage those dollars, because I believe they want to continue to expand the museum, which is part of your mission statement now to support the arts. Senate Bill 194 became an interesting bill for the RSCVA and for your lobbyists. It was a bill that the Safari Club International interjected themselves in. It was about the selling of products that had ivory. It was really an anti-ivory bill. So what happened was the RSCVA, we didn't take a position on the bill, but what we did do is we served as a liaison between Senator Dennis, whose bill it was, and the Safari Club International. Mr. Patchett, we were on the phone with him often, and as the bill moved through the legislative session, the amendments kept being introduced. Mr. Patchett, we served to make sure that at the end of the day, when the final amendment came out, Mr. Patchett was comfortable with the amendment. He sent a text to Senator Dennis that they were not going to try to veto the bill with Governor Sandoval. Governor Sandoval's office reached out to us, asked us about, is the RSCVA okay with the bill? I said, we're not involved in the bill. However, we do have a text from SCI, and Safari Club International, who we care about deeply, is no longer concerned with the bill. So the governor did sign the bill in question, so there were many phone calls between Mr. DeLone and myself and about how engaged we want to be, what we needed to do to make sure that we were appropriate as we represented the RSCVA in the building. SB 235, that was another bill that we were extremely involved with staff in, and that had to do with ticket sales by third-party vendors. There were many iterations. There were 6 amendments to this bill, and every time an amendment came out, Mr. Rivers and I were on the phone, or Nick and Mr. Rivers were on the phone, and we worked through the amendment with his staff. We had conference calls to make sure that this bill was going to be, at the end of the day, that it was not going to have any adverse effects on the RSCVA. The final amendment came out. The RSCVA, the staff signed off on it. They said that they were fine with the bill, and we let the bill sponsors know, Senator Woodhouse, that the RSCVA did not have any issues with the final amendment. So that was that moved very quickly, and that was SB 235. SB 311 is just was a cleanup bill. It was by Senator Settlemyre. The bill passed both houses unanimously, and it repealed the provisions for travel agents to have to register. So it was just, for some reason, this was kind of lingering out there, and I just wanted you to know, since we do have some, obviously have involvement with travel agencies. SB 414 was a bill that the Clark County Treasurer was trying to tax convention and trade show folks that were coming in that were displaying items. They were trying to require them to pay taxes on the items when they brought them in for display. We worked with the bill sponsor to ensure that we were concerned that that would have an impact on the RSCVA and our exhibitors. So at the end of the day, the bill passed. Now our exhibitors have 30 days to bring items in and to get them out of here. And as long as they're within that, they don't exceed 30 days, there won't be any taxes that will be collected. Washoe County never attempted to collect any of these taxes. It was all in Clark County, but we wanted to make sure that there wasn't a trickle-down effect into Washoe County. And that was SB 414.
May I ask you?
Yes.
Did the Las Vegas Commission Authority support that bill?
No. They were like us. They stayed neutral on the bill. The LVCVA did, and we were, to some degree, we were neutral on the bill based on, as again, the amendments were brought forward, but we wanted to make sure that the bill didn't, obviously, we wanted the bill to pass because it could have an adverse effect on our exhibitors.
Yeah, 30 days is fine. They typically ship in and ship out within a 7 to 10 day period, so 30 is plenty.
The next bill was AB 294. That was a transient lodging bill that they were trying to make sure that we could claw back and work with the Airbnb and those individuals and collect room taxes. We had provided some information. We made sure that the bill sponsor knew, which was Irene Bustamante Adams, that the bill, we didn't have an issue. We had a great working relationship with Airbnb, and at the end of the day, the bill died. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. But at the end, we worked diligently with the bill sponsor to make sure that they knew that we had a good working relationship, and we told the Airbnb lobbyists, we have a great working relationship with Airbnb, and we appreciate our relationship. The next bill was AB 431. This was relating to alcoholic beverages. It allows for an expansion of brew pubs, which was something that was important to with some focus groups that the staff had concluded. And I think that for us, there'll be craft beers. The bill will allow for multiple locations now for purveyors of beer. And at the end of the day, it's a good bill, and it'll allow for now at farmers markets. We'll be able to sell craft beer at farmers markets. I guess there was a prohibition against that previously. So now they'll be able to have one-day sales in public, in community projects. And the final bill, which is AB 449, I don't know how you'll leverage that, but it creates the Public Lands Day in Nevada. It's effective July 1st. It'll be the last Saturday in September, and that will be an opportunity for the RSCVA to leverage all of our beautiful public lands. We have some new state parks that are going to be created, and so with that, that's the narrative inside the document. I will share with you, we had a lot of activity this session representing you. It was a privilege to represent the RSCVA this session in the legislature, and I do want to applaud the staff for always being accessible to us, and no matter what time of day it was. Sometimes it was 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes it was 5:30 in the morning that I was making phone calls because we had a hearing all of a sudden pop up at 8, especially towards the end. And we wanted to make sure that whatever communications we had with legislators were appropriate. And I think that with that, if there's questions, I'm happy to answer any.
5:30 was Steve coherent?
Yes.
That's when Phil wakes up.
He was getting ready to walk the dog several times.
Mr. Rivers.
If I could just throw out one more bill that came up this week that I circulated internally and both to Mendy and Ben. It's AB 375. John Sherman, who is the former finance director at the county, called me regarding this bill that passed related to flood management. And it's very similar to the bill that preceded WC1 in that it allows the flood management authority to look at a variety of taxes, one of which is transient lodging taxes, for the potential of trying to mitigate flood management issues. He said he would keep me in the loop as it relates to that, but obviously any diversion or increases to room tax would potentially impact our ability to raise rates in the future should we elect to do so or request to do so. So
Right.
just want to throw that out there.
Mr. Lawson has a comment.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was it just gives the ability for flood management to put it on the ballot for 18.
Really?
They have to go through that pre-discussion essentially to look at I think there's 5 tax streams that they can look at and figure out which one makes the most sense, which if you remember the school district did with the county in the predecessor to what became WCY.
So I intimately know quite a bit about this bill. The reason this bill was created was to put together a working group, which the 3 entities, Washoe County, Reno, and City, and then also some individuals from the state will be put into this, and it's a working group to come up with these ideas and potential ideas such as lounge, but with those ideas, to Mr. Lawson's point, it's discussion then that once they settle in on some type of revenue stream, take that to the ballot box for a full ballot initiative by the public. So there's a lot of moving parts with this. So doesn't mean right away that transient lodging tax will be even dedicated for it. It's just a discussion point right now. But we'll definitely be involved in that discussion ongoing.
Yeah,
there's a number of ways that they're
I believe there's
that.
5 or 6 tax stream options that are.
Mr. Fry.
Mr. Chair, this is ominous for this organization. We should not start on that road. We do not want to be taking tourism, the room taxes to put for flood control. So I think we should do whatever we can as an organization to stop that process before it becomes further down the road and becomes more difficult for us to defeat it.
Absolutely, and I agree with you, Mr. Fry, that that is definitely not the intent of what room tax and tourism dollars are meant for, is for flood control. And so we'll definitely be at the table discussing that. And like I said, it was a topic that was brought up, but there's been no real discussion about where those tax dollars, a majority of the tax dollars right now are discussing are about property taxes and then increases to water service bills and different things like that first.
I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that this board send a letter out now stating our position, so we make whoever is getting active in this process to understand we're going to be opposing it, and put our position on the table now.
Great, we will do so.
It's a little scary that me and Mr. Fry are thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah, we will definitely put something together and get something out. I will draft something and get something to the governor. All right. Any other questions at this time for Ms. Elliott? Seeing none. Ms. Elliott, thank you very much. And I want to commend you and all your staff at Capital Partners. I think you guys went into this with the idea of a defensive position and not having to do much work, which turned into a much different legislative session for you. A little bit more active, so to speak. But we want to thank you and commend you and your staff for all the time and effort you put in carrying us through the session. It would have been, we would have been in a very tough position had you not been there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
We appreciate
Thank
it. All right. Seeing nothing further on E, there's no discussion needed there. We will move on to presentations this morning. And next we have F1, Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, landing benefit for our region. Welcome, Ms. Marilee Mora. How are you this morning?
Well, good morning, Chairman Lucy and members of the RSCVA board and Mr. DeLone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here this morning. Thank you very much, Tawny, for the help here. So I'm really here to talk about partnership. And first of all, I want to acknowledge Carol Chaplin is here. She's the president and CEO of the Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority. She is your new appointee to the airport board and will be sworn in on July 13. Great to have you here. And of course, I've got a number of other acknowledgments. Of course, our chairman of the board, Rick Murdoch, sits on your board, and he has had 8 fabulous years helping us with air service. We also have Nat Caroselli, who is going to have another term on the airport board, another 4 years from representing Washoe County. So we're excited. He does a great job for us also. And I want to recognize John Farahi, who's a former chairman of the board for the airport. And I also want to acknowledge Mayor Sheevy, who just received the Chairman's Award from Rick Murdoch and has done so many things for the airport. So I'm really here to thank you for the partnership, and I would be remiss also if I don't acknowledge in the audience here is also Brian Culpin, who's our Vice President of Marketing and Public Affairs with me today. Really, we are at a great time in terms of the partnership between the Airport Authority and RSCVA. And on your agenda today is allocation of money to the Regional Air Service Corporation. And while this is not on our bullet list of partnership, it's probably one of the most important things you help us with. So the Regional Air Service Corporation was incorporated in 2015, and actually there had been a regional marketing committee that's been around since 2001. This group, I mean, we totally appreciate the money that goes into this, and I know that you're looking this morning at an action item to increase your allocation to the Regional Air Service Corporation. So this group originated in 2001, and we consider it really our secret weapon when we go in and talk to airlines. The fact that we have money through the Regional Air Service Corporation to help with marketing and risk mitigation sets us apart for the other 400 communities that are vying for air service from those from the airlines. So actually, the Regional Air Service Corporation was incorporated in order to sign a risk mitigation agreement with JetBlue. And many of you know that we spent 15 years courting JetBlue to come to this community and provide service to New York JFK. And we've just celebrated 2 years of service on that flight, phenomenally successful, and also almost at a year of service with JetBlue to Long Beach. That would not have happened if we had not had the Regional Air Service Corporation step up and provide marketing money, provide risk mitigation money. Ditto for the flight that was started last June 3 times daily to Oakland that is also successful. That is also a risk mitigation agreement signed through RAS. So again, I want to thank you for your participation, and hopefully the board will allocate some additional funds because it's so important. So we're at an all-time best practices, I would say, between partnering between the RSCVA and the Airport Authority. We really, appreciate the RSCVA have a seat at the table many times with us when we go out to visit airlines, and most recently, your chairman Lucy was with us with an Alaska Airlines visit. You also participated with the Southwest Deck Party for employees, WestJet headquarters trip, Sun Country, and the list goes on. But when you can come in and RSCVA is there to talk about the marketing support and the power of RSCVA partnering to make a flight successful, that is so helpful to us in terms of maintaining our air service and attracting new air service. We were partnering and bringing Safari Club back to this community, and for other large groups that are looking at this, I think we have a new partnership, a new way of doing business, because many times groups look at the lift and want to know what the future projections are on air service. It's great to have that partnership. We've also had the collaboration on target markets for your allocation of advertising funds, and we've been very grateful for the data that we're now getting from RSCVA that is helping us for business cases when we go to airlines. And particularly because data sources are hard for us to find for Canada, one of our top destinations that we're trying to get is certainly Vancouver service. And the data that we've gotten through Jennifer Cunningham has really been pivotal to our conversations with several airlines about getting service to Vancouver. So again, this partnership in terms of providing information, sales pieces, collaboration on FAM tours, all of that I think really benefits the airport in terms of our mission of increasing our flights, increasing our passenger numbers, regaining what we've lost, and also serves to your mission of filling hotel rooms and bringing people into this community. I think we've also talked about our board is changing. Again, thank you for your appointment of Carol Chaplin. We're going to be so sad to see two of our Reno representatives, again, Chairman Rick Murdoch and Jerry Hall, leave the board. The City of Reno has made the appointments of Richard J. and Daniel Farahi, who has had a great mentor, and John Farahi. He will be joining our board. And then from the City of Sparks, Art Sperber is replacing Bill Eck. And Sean Carey replaced Adam Mayberry at our April board meeting. So this is a new board, as Mr. Caroselli can say. 5 of our 9 representatives are new, so dynamic new board. I think all of you are pretty familiar of who we are. We operate Reno Tahoe International and Reno Stead Airport. I always like to remind people, I'll go on to the next slide, that we do not take any local tax dollars, and sometimes that perception is not very well known back in our community. But we are financially self-sufficient, and 65% of our operating revenue comes from non-airline sources. And this is particularly important because as we find ways to bring money in through our retail operators, our food and beverage, this means that we can keep our rates and charges to the airlines at a very modest level so that we're not just dependent on the airlines for providing revenue. That helps us certainly keep airlines here and bring in new airlines. Just to tell you a little bit about us, I think a lot of people don't think about the airport being an economic engine. We bring in $2 billion a year to the local economy. And every time a 737 lands, and of course that's the aircraft operated by Southwest Airlines, which represents 50% of our operations, that's $100,000 per landing. And another thing is that we are a local, we produce a lot of jobs here. While there are about 250 people that work for the Airport Authority, there are 2,500 jobs at the airport. Wisely, the board adopted a strategic plan in 2013, and we had never had a strategic plan before. So this strategic plan actually takes us through 2018. And I think what you found is that this is an alignment really between the Board of Trustees and staff. And whenever we have a question about what it is we're working on, this strategic plan has really, really guided us. And I will say that I think that we have been more successful in air service because we have a strategic priority put on increasing air service. Now, the board never numerically said which is the most important strategic priority, but I could tell you physically on this list, increase air service is at the beginning of that. So we consider that really our number one strategic priority. General aviation operations and services at both our airports is a strategic priority as well. And many of you know, if we look back about 4 years ago, we probably were at war with the local pilots at Reno Tahoe International Airport. We've worked really hard to have a partnership with the general aviation community, both at Reno Tahoe and also at Reno Stead. Cargo development, I think everything that is happening in our community is really reflected in our cargo development. I'll get into the numbers in just a minute. And when we talk about economic development, that's really having the best use of our land at both airports and being able to generate revenue off of our land. And positive environment, I think we partner really with you in trying to have a positive environment for everybody that comes in and out of Reno Tahoe International. We're really proud of our route map, 23 destinations and 8 airlines. And of course, as you see that flight to the East Coast to JFK, that's a great addition. And there are a number of seasonal flights we have here. Also, 2.5 years ago, getting service on Volaris to Guadalajara, which is 3 times a week, was an important initiative for us. And that Volaris flight continues to do well and particularly important for our local Hispanic community. Just to tell you about some of the wins that we've had, and again, these wins are in partnership with you and with the Regional Air Service Corporation. We brought back Orange County service on Alaska. Oakland started again up last June with 3 flights a day. Long Beach service and Atlanta seasonal service. Dallas Love Field on Southwest Airlines. We had never had service to Love Field before. San Jose, we had Southwest come back into the market for San Jose service on June 4th. And starting in August, they're actually going to take that flight to 2 times a day through the end of the calendar year. Not to forget that also Alaska Airlines is in that market. And United Airlines actually started on June 8th a flight to Chicago. So really, really great additions. And when we look at 16 new flights over a 22-month period. What you're interested in, I think, is actually looking at the seat capacity. And when we look at the growth, I think as you see the curve here, we're on a trajectory to bring back seat growth into this market. I think as you look at potentially bringing in larger groups into this is particularly important to say, you know, we're on an upward trend in terms of the daily seats that we have available. And again, this is an important metric as you go out and talk about bringing large conventions here to Reno. Last year, we had a 6.4% increase in passengers, serving 3.6 million people. I can tell you that already this year, we're up 10%. So passenger growth is really going well. But a lot of this growth is certainly replacing the third of the passengers that we lost during the recession. Record-setting year last year in cargo. We had a 13% increase in cargo, which is not surprising given the economic resurgence in our community in terms of warehousing, e-commerce, and distribution facilities, advanced manufacturing. All of that is being felt certainly at Reno Tahoe International. Exciting programs that we've got going. You are helping us out certainly with a master plan program. We had not done a master plan in 20 years. So we are about 60% through our master plan process. And really this is going to be our roadmap for the next 20 years. A key part of our master plan process is really a robust outreach to the community. But this will be really, really important in terms of the facilities that we plan for the future. Very exciting is the local advertising campaign that we've been running. We've had about 15 weeks of a getaway program where we give away a trip for 2 to a nonstop destination paired with a hotel. We've had 15 weeks of that, 5 more to go. This number is actually 45,000 entries so far. We gave this presentation submitted it 2 weeks ago. I think we're almost to 60,000 entrants at this point in time. And many of these people, one of the points of this was really to educate our local community about our nonstop destination. Some of the focus group research that we had done is that while we think we've been very proactive talking about all those new flights, many people didn't know about them. So this is really a campaign to educate our local community, because it's one thing to get these flights, but we've got to use it or lose it, to quote Chairman Murdoch's famous phrase, is that we need the support of the community on these flights. And many of these people that are signed up for the Getaways program are also opting into our database or into local carriers. Another thing that's proved very successful in the community is that we produce a weekly airfare sale that we get out to the community. And I think that what we're seeing is that there's a lot of impromptu travel by people when they know that there's a fare sale or a deal out there. The other thing that we've been involved with, certainly RSCVA in the community, is Air Service 101, really getting out to the community to talk about how we do air service. And one of the important things that we've done here is really bring in one of our partners from the airlines when we have an Air Service 101 session, so they really get to see the engagement of the community. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about general aviation at Reno Tahoe International. Atlantic Aviation is a great facility, and we were very thankful for Mayor Sheevy having her State of the City address there that gave a lot of visibility. About 700 people attended that address, and Atlantic Aviation is the largest fixed-based operator in the U.S., and they've made a $15 million investment in this facility, and they're at 85% occupancy. Another successful operator on the east side of the airport is Dassault Aviation Services. They provide the maintenance for Falcon jets, and that facility's been there for quite some time, and we expect them to be expanding in the future. Our other airport is Reno-Stead Airport, known as the home of the championship air races. A lot of excitement happening in recent years out at Stead. Over $50 million has been invested in that airport over the last 12 years. And we talk about our new Stead terminal building. It's probably not that new, but it opened in 2013, but we had a World War II vintage facility out there before as our management office, so it still seems new to us. You know, it's a great facility out there. It's actually instrument landing system, and we're looking at upcoming $22 million investment in the runway at Stead. Exciting time for us, really, in this community about unmanned aircraft systems development and key parts of the development of the drone industry happening at Stead. We are the home for NASA, having done the testing for the protocols for the integration of the drones into the national airspace. They tested last October, they tested in May, and this is where really the protocols and the regulations and how the drones are going to integrate with manned aircraft, how that's going to take place. That testing is actually happening at Stead. We're excited to have testing at Stead, but I can tell you really, you know, what we're looking at is the economic development opportunities for our communities, that these companies come and have a good experience testing at Stead, and then they locate their companies here in the community. I've been very honored because of the work that's really been done at Stead, that I'm one of 2 airport representatives on a 35-member Federal Aviation Administration Drone Advisory Committee, and it's just myself and the director from LAX. So I can tell you we have a voice at the table in terms of this new exciting industry. We also have a master development agreement with Dermody Properties for 1,700 acres at Stead. So again, I want to just thank you for your help in having us.
Please consult your directory and call again. Or
thank you for your help, because you have a
for
representative
assistance.
on our airport noise advisory panel, Brian Rivers, and Jennifer Cunningham serves on our master plan working group, and so we really appreciate that partnership. New concession opportunities are happening our way, and again, this is an opportunity, this is how we generate non-airline revenue, to be less dependent on the airlines. We just had a public workshop on June 15th to announce that we have 3,500 square feet that we're going to open up for food and beverage operations, retail operations, and we really had a local workshop because we'd like to see that local flavor in the airport. I always like to say that our airport is not generic, and hopefully you hear that from the groups that you bring here, is that we reflect the beauty, I think, of the outdoors of our area and all the things that you're trying to promote, and really the you know, it's important in our food and beverage and our retail products that they also go along and have that local flavor. We're also looking that we will have a new hotel at the corner of Terminal and Plum that will be specifically geared toward millennials. So we're excited about an announcement a little bit later, hopefully by this fall. We just had our board last week approve a new common use lounge, and it's called the Escape Lounge. We're going to be the 4th location for the Escape Lounge in the U.S. This is going to be in the location that we currently have an art gallery, have views onto the airfield. We're also going to take over our children's play area and be relocating that. This will be opening this winter. And really, a Platinum American Express card holder will get in there free. I mean, this is an opportunity, I think, really to work with local partnerships, the Regional Air Service Corporation, local casinos, the ski resorts, to have their customers have a great experience. For the cost of entry, whether $40 booked ahead or $45 at the door, somebody will get food and beverage in that location. So I think it's, again, reflective of the clientele and just the customer amenities that we're trying to provide at Reno Tahoe International. Many people ask what's happening with transportation network companies. And I think it was about a year and a half ago that we got Uber and Lyft at the airport. And what you're looking at is that these transportation network companies account for about 52% of our customer transport. And what we're seeing is that this is actually hasn't cut in that deeply to the taxi trips. It's additional customer use here. So, you know, but I also say, I think in addition to have taxi and transportation network companies, the fact that we have free shuttle service to our hotels here locally is a huge advantage for you when you're bringing in large groups into the community. I just always like to say that we've really had a focus on customer service and won a number of awards for that. Just to say that, you know, we're always, honor flight is one of the best things that we ever do, and so that's always a great thing here. But I've got to tell you that one of the things that I think that helps in terms of our customer service is that we're now up to almost 50% of the people that go through our checkpoint are pre-check, and they're going to have a better experience. And I've got to tell you, I think that's because a year and a half ago, when TSA was they closed their local pre-check enrollment area, we said, open it in the airport. And the fact that people know that enrollment center has really increased our enrollment here at Reno Tahoe International. And so people can expect a better, quicker experience through the checkpoint. We always like to welcome big group movements and the conventions you bring in with our Kindness Takes Flight team. This is a number of our employees that go out and greet large groups and actually go out and do just random acts of kindness to our passengers. And then our Pause for Passengers dog therapy group has now grown to 25 teams. And it's an important team. It's an important part of our welcoming also for groups. With that, I know I've gone long, so just would entertain any questions. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Moore. Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mary. Have we used any of the incentives that we put out there, for example, for JetBlue? Did we ever get there that we had to use any of it?
We used all of it.
Use all of it. Okay. Thank you.
And, you know, I should say, too, that the airline, I mean, besides the community incentives through the Regional Air Service Corporation, the Board of Trustees, the Federal Aviation Administration allows the airport to also have incentives. So we waive landing fees and rental rates for a year for a new airline, and we provide marketing support. We have a designated amount of money for a new route, a new destination, and a new airline.
Ms. Mora, I have a couple questions in regards to the new air service additions. You know, I know, obviously, for some of the new flights that we've just added this year, it's gonna the ride numbers are gonna be difficult to elaborate on. But specifically, like the Atlanta, Georgia, the Atlanta, Georgia flight that we added with Delta, I know that's seasonal service. But how did that first year of service go? It's
gone well, and frankly, this morning we just got a note that service will be starting up again. For seasonal service in December, and then once weekly, and I believe it's like 3 times a week during the holiday season, and go to weekend service the first part during the ski season.
So all of our air service additions, we've been able to fill those flights and maintain that airlift.
Right.
Great.
Right. And you know, we start many places that when we start seasonal service, we're really, the goal is to get that to daily service. It doesn't always happen the first year, but you know, I think we're showing really that Southwest has, you know, one of the things, again, I just mentioned that they started with going back into the San Jose market, and now they've had that flight 2 times a day to San Jose that through the end of the calendar year. And they're also looking at really, you know, keeping their Dallas Love Field. We just learned too that they're going to, you know, keep their Dallas Love Field flight as well. So, again, those are successful, you know, efforts when you have seasonal service convert and stay in the market.
Great.
But it's the partnership with all of you that really to fill those seats that we need.
And then, you know, one other question. I know when we added the Oakland service, the 3 times a day Oakland service with Southwest, I know that they moved aircraft from the Las Vegas to service that, I believe. Is that correct?
They may have moved one of the flight, but I've got to tell you that we, what we're hearing, we just heard, is that Las Vegas is going back to 9 times daily with Southwest.
That's what I was getting to. Thank you very much.
That's new news.
Good. I like to hear it. News here first. That's fantastic. So yeah, we like to see that increased growth. I know it was a tough strain during legislative season to only have 6 flights back and forth between Las Vegas. So to see that those 9 flights back would be great. So, Mr. Carselli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mary Lee. I will see you later on the day. But I want to acknowledge that starting in fiscal 17-18, if you're the board members remember at the retreat, we agreed to raise the Air Service Assistance Fund here from $1 million to $1.5 million. So that starts on July 1st. And secondly, we're carrying over $900,000 because it's a cumulative fund. So we will have $2.4 million to help assist and work with the airlines and the airport, et cetera, for this next fiscal year. And I think that's, I want to thank everybody for supporting that, because I think it was a great move for the community.
Fantastic. Mr. Murdoch.
Thank you, Chairman. A couple things. How is Chicago working out with United? They're back in the market. That puts a lot of connectivity into Reno.
Yes, and that's going quite well. And I will tell you that flight started on June 8th, and we had an incredible number of people that came from the corporate headquarters for that start of service. So I think they were checking out Reno. So quite frankly, we expect some other things to happen with United. And so this is very exciting for an airline that really hasn't done much in Reno. So I think, you know, really the word is out. I mean, everything that you're doing and all the economic diversification in the community is really driving air service. So I think we expect some other good things out of United going forward.
Another question, will you be using the air races as another platform to get all the CEOs in conjunction with RSCVA this year to get people out here in the airline business?
That's one of the, you know, the people that work in schedule planning at airlines, they're aviation geeks, so they love coming out to the air races. So for us, that's a great opportunity to bring them out. But I got to tell you, one of the things that we've had an initiative, and I think all of you know that we have a really dynamite air service team, and Rebecca Venus and Hassan Azam, you know, who partnered with Brian Culpin, is that we've actually got a metric and a goal to bring people here to our community, because so many of you know that it takes bringing people out here to really show our community off. So we have had a concentrated effort over the last 2 years, not only at the air races, but really to bring our airline partners out here to explore, come out here with their families. So we've been very successful, I think, in bringing them out on a one-on-one basis as well.
Mr. Higgs.
Mary Lee,
I'm sorry.
can I finish? I got one more. Just for the record is, we've all worked with Carol on a lot of different areas, and I just want to make everybody understand how much she's ingrained into the region. And one of the reasons that she was a great candidate, and I think this is important for all of us, is she was able to be, we were always we in the region, and that's what we love about her. She worked with the desert worked with Tahoe, and so she brings a lot of camaraderie, and again, we've had a lot of history with her, and she'll be a great addition to the airport.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. Mr. Higgs.
Thank you so much for the presentation this morning. And you alluded to this, and the RSCVA's dashboard report reflects year-over-year April air passengers are up about 10%. You also indicated that the strategic plan, you're a couple years into the strategic plan, how are you tracking to the goals that you had 2 years ago where you're at right now?
Well, I'm held quite accountable. I get CEO goals, I know so does Mr. DeLone, and they're all wrapped around the strategic priorities. And so we're tracking quite well because I think really when as I mentioned, the airport never had a strategic plan before. And fortunately, when I came back to the airport as CEO in July of 2013, having that strategic plan was really beneficial. So it's just a measurement that every day we work on it. So I would say that we track every year. We've used the same people that you have we've done quite a lot of implementation internally with On Strategy to have a tool to track all of our metrics and our goals. So it's going quite well.
And, with the recent announcement of the RSCVA's rebranding and now all of this marketing money coming in, as you look at the airport and their strategic plan, what do you see, and Rick and Mr. Caroselli, Mr. Murdoch, what do you see as the biggest challenge for the next 3 years, as an example?
Well, I'm going to look at it more, I'm going to turn that around and say it's an opportunity, because the fact that you have put not only money into the Regional Air Service Corporation, but there's money that can be tapped for air service out of your budget and the hotel room tax. That creates such a huge difference for us when we're out talking to the airlines. Because again, we're competing with other communities, and they want to know that we have to put a proposal on the table. And so to have that opportunity to say RSCVA can add money to it is huge. I think Oakland, $100,000 you put into that. That was a tremendous part of the risk mitigation program. As we talk to these airlines, the fact that you have that money available makes all the difference in the world for us to go forward. We're looking at DC services on our target list, and so is Boston. We're going to be meeting with JetBlue this summer, and so that changes the dynamic for us to be able to say, this is what the community can do. Thank you for that question.
Great. Mr. Fry?
I just want to understand something I just saw that is, to me, surprising. Looking at these numbers from 2007 to 16, with this great recession, we went from over 5 million passengers. Now we're right at 3.65. Where did these people go? Because the rooms, I think we are now at all-time, aren't we? All-time high,
Occupancy, we're not at an all-time high. Back in the late 90s, we were still higher than we are today, but we're definitely above where we've been trending for the last decade.
How far are we, for example, from 2007 occupancy?
I don't know off the top of my head. We're projecting to be about 3.6 million next year. And off the top of my head, I would say 3.2, 3.3, if memory serves me right.
Because I don't feel we are that far away, even occupancy-wise today. And with all these new companies coming to town, this really, I had not seen this till you put it up here. What happened to all those passengers? This is about 1.5 million passengers.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. We lost a third of our passengers during the recession, and while we're at 3.6 million last year, we used to be over 5 million.
Yeah, but who were they? Where did they go?
They took to driving. So the importance of us beefing up service to the San Francisco Bay Area is because converting those people back to being an air traveler. So the fact that there are 3 Oakland flights a day, we're being successful with that flight. The fact that Southwest has gone back into San Jose, the fact that United Airlines is running fare deals to San Francisco. The buildup that we've had in really the LA basin, adding Long Beach and Orange County, people that may have been driving into this market, we're trying to convert back to an air traveler. And the same thing is true. Why we're running a local campaign is that we need the support from our local population. And so why you see us spending money in local advertising in this getaway program is that we need our community to be supporting those flights and flying again, because people started using their cars. So it's a conversion, I think, back to being an air traveler. So thank you for that question, because
Thank you.
we're rebuilding, no doubt about it.
Yes, Mr. Murdoch.
You know, Bill brought up a good point. You have to tell, when was the recession started, Southwest, this is for John's edification, Southwest pulled out of the market literally.
6 markets.
Yeah, so I think there's another reason, and Bill brought that up, that you're really down is Southwest pulled out completely and moved to the east.
And what you found is that our team went out and had Alaska Airlines fill in many of those markets. Initially, they went back into San Jose, they went back into Boise. So we've really been in a proactive program to get back into those short-haul markets that we lost with Southwest back in 2012 and 2013.
So John, did you hear that? I think this is important.
I'm sorry, no.
Southwest,
interrupted me.
that's okay. Southwest pulled out of the market, pulled out of 6 markets in Reno right before the recession started. Now they're putting the planes back in.
But I want to add
Yeah.
that it wasn't,
Yeah.
yeah, and it wasn't only Reno Tahoe International where Southwest pulled out of short-haul markets. Airports of our size across the country saw that similar thing happen. So we were actually, the service that was put into Oakland a year ago was an experiment on the part of Southwest to go back in, and they've changed the way that they internally look at the, the ROI on a short-haul market. And Oakland has been successful. So again, they could make more money at that point in time. Southwest took the aircraft they had here in Reno and went to the East Coast. They had many new opportunities on the East Coast that they placed that aircraft. Now they've come back and they have a new ROI and looking at short-haul markets again. But again, we've seen expansion of Alaska Airlines in some of those markets that Southwest pulled out of.
And Ms. Mora, and then also, I mean, when we attended the Boyd Air Conference, I believe the stat that I heard 15 years ago, we had almost 36 carriers in the market, and now we're only down to 8 total carriers.
Well, those are all the mergers and acquisitions
Right.
that have happened.
And so when those 36 carriers went to 8 carriers, they made a lot of service changes, such as dissolving those short haul markets and making sure they were making sure their efforts were focused more on those larger markets. So I think that was another effect that we suffered from as well.
Right.
Mr. Caraselli.
I was disrupting Mr. Harahi when I told him that 1.5 million lost passengers went to Burning Man and never came back.
Good point. A lot of people get lost in the desert, so.
I should just briefly mention one initiative that's not in our presentation because many times I get asked about it. We have Guadalajara service, and we've always been a port of entry. So 2.5 years, and we've been trying to improve the customer service experience for Volaris and people coming from Guadalajara. Our delegation that often doesn't agree on things did agree and actually get passed in December of 2016 the Cross-Border Trade Enhancement Act. And what that has meant is that while we don't want to pay, we have 2 customs officers and a port director, we are now gotten the ability because of, it's called the Reno bill, that we can pay for a customs officer. So we got approved for that recently. I don't think it's going to happen overnight, another officer. But it really gives us the opportunity to be in control of our destiny, to be able to pay for officers going forward for additional international service.
Mr. Murdoch.
One more point, and this is, I'm sorry, I get passionate about this stuff. But what we need to know is when we did these airline visits, and Nat, you know this, the first thing they'll say, what's this event called Burning Man? They'll ask about it. What goes on in Reno on New Year's? What goes on in Reno over Washington? The airlines look at our peaks. They peak the peaks. And when Phil, brought Safari Club back, we were all talking about what is important. Well, when an airline hears Safari Club pulled out of Vegas is coming to Reno, as you know, they're already upgauging. You land any of these other new pieces of business, it changes their presentation in these airline meeting rooms with these scheduled planners. They're going, oh my gosh, revenue opportunity. And again, the one final point is whether it's a business seat or a tourism seat, we want any seat, because that's what's changed our game is we've got high revenue coming off the seats for other reasons besides maybe a tourism seat, which is important, but you've got convention seats and you've got, as you know, the the Tesla seats, or
And
whatever
what
they call
we're
them.
finding with bringing these groups back, and Burning Man is the perfect example, is that they're either upgauging the aircraft, bringing in an extra a larger aircraft, or bringing in more flights just for that time. So Burning Man, JetBlue has additional flights, and I think, we're certainly engaged with conversations with the airlines to bring in additional lift, larger aircraft, additional flights for Safari Club. And so this is, I think, something now that we're more successful about, having just, year-round, a lot of conversations with the airlines about serving the needs of large group movements, large conventions that come here.
What you have told us this morning, Mary Lee, that Phil and Jennifer and the team have no more excuses that we don't have enough air service to bring people to Reno. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Morrow. We appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the time this morning.
Okay, seeing nothing further with for that, we will move on to our next presentation, which is F2, Reno Sparks Convention Business Authority staff. Mr. DeLone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman Lucy. Thanks first and foremost for all of your participation last Thursday in the dialogue and discussion with our equine customers. That was very useful for them, and I hope it was enlightening and educational for all of the board and others interested. As we sit here today at 10 o'clock, we have two citywide conventions touring the Reno Sparks Convention Center across the street. All of your hotels, for the hotel owners and operators here in the room, have been involved in that, and I want to thank you personally for your involvement. The site inspections have gone better than exceedingly well, and we should have notification, I would think, within 30 days or less, and that's all I can say at this moment. Thank you. And I would also like to thank Marilee Mora, if she's still in the room. She and her team were spot on in the arrivals and departures and the theming of the airport, and they are an excellent partner. And also, Mr. Wood, thanks to all your colleagues up at Incline Village that were instrumental in helping us on Tuesday and Wednesday morning up there. I'm pleased to announce Mr. Sean Tracy has joined the RSCVA sales team. Mike Larraguetta made reference to a new hire for the Atlanta southeastern region, and until today we weren't really able to announce his name, but Sean comes to us from Caesars Entertainment, where he's been for nearly a decade. He has an exceedingly strong track record in producing for that corporation. He has sold Caesars Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and of course their properties in South Shore and here in Reno via Harrah's. So he started last Monday. He came highly recommended by both customers and people in the industry. He will be an excellent and superb addition. Through April of this year, we are now at 85% of our booking pace with 191,000 contracted net room nights through April, which are the statistics available to us. And also, we are soon to launch our 3 new external communication e-tools. We have 3 areas we're focusing on. The first will be a monthly executive summary to community stakeholders that will disseminate the timely news coming out of the RSCVA and, importantly, this body as the board of directors. The second is a monthly e-newsletter to all of America's association and corporate meeting planners and decision makers that will provide news and content pertinent to the destination and the marketplace. When I was in association management for a number of years, there was little, if any, communication out to meeting planners and CEOs, and we're going to change that. And the third newsletter will be distributed to America's travel buyers and the leisure and wholesale marketplace. So you will be seeing those shortly because they're now being designed and developed. Someone already stole my thunder. I think it was our chairman about Jennifer's award today. And Jennifer, again, from all your colleagues and staff and friends here, we're so proud of you. You really hit it out of the park. I turn it now back to Mr. Lucy for the
Thank you.
agenda.
Without any other, is there any questions in regards to the appointment? Mr. Hicks?
Are we on the dashboard section right now?
Yes, we are.
So just, and Brian, we spoke this morning, I didn't get a chance to really ask you, but on the 2017 dashboard, it's the section that's just below the strategic priority. It shows, are the differences between year over year, April to April, associated with the bowling stadium? Because if you look at that section, I mean, they're considerably down from where they were a year ago, certainly just for the month.
Just to be clear, are you looking at the room night portion?
Yeah,
or
actual
the facility?
room nights.
Okay. Yeah, so we actually have had an extremely strong both April and May without bowlers. If you remember last year, we had the open tournament. This year, we don't have bowling downtown. Next year, we have the ladies. Normally, we see it come from wherever we were the preceding year with a pretty significant decline in occupancy, generally accompanied with a little bit lower rate. And what we've seen in both April and May is about 10% growth from prior year.
Okay.
Which is astoundingly strong,
But
both in
this
rooms and
shows
occupancy.
below where we were last year, if I'm looking at this correctly.
Are you looking at the?
April, the one was just the month, where it shows, it says, again, the subcategories actual, it's under sales goals, then the subcategories actual room
Oh, I'm sorry,
nights.
you're talking about the room night portion? Yeah,
Yeah.
the room nights there are down because we did not have bowling, obviously. So we didn't have the USBC this year. So we
Okay.
had 470 rooms against 22,000.
And then again, so when I'm looking at this, I always go to that far right column and I'm looking for red. And I mean, that's just, but those categories are still green. Is it because it's assumed that the difference is because of a large event that happened?
So just at a high level, if there is a monthly budget that can be compared against, that's
Okay.
what the green, yellow, red is measuring. It's not against prior year.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
of the abnormal safari coming back.
So the color doesn't
USBC.
necessarily represent the difference year over year
You
in
know, it's
that.
budget, if there is a monthly or an annual goal or year-to-date goal, that's what the measurement is evaluating, not the year-over-year variance.
Okay, and then Mr. Caroselli talked about all this money that we have allocated for direct support of airlift, and on the next page, about the middle of the page, it talks about numbers allocated with a goal of $1 million. Year-to-date, we're supposed to be at 800,000, but we've only paid out 100,000?
Correct. The total annual goal, or the total annual amount that was approved through the strategic plan for 16-17 was $1 million, with the goal of getting that to $1.5 million war chest. At this point, we've spent 100,000 of the $1 million worth of contributions forecast for 16-17. So there will be, if we don't spend any more in the next week, there'll be 900,000 in that pot of funds. Next year, we have $500,000 set aside. If there were to be none spent, we would have $1.4 million at the end of fiscal 17-18 towards future air service risk mitigation.
So if I'm on the airport authority and I look at this report and it says we should have gotten all this money, we haven't yet, is that?
It's not necessarily to the airport board necessarily, it's to the airlines, generally speaking. So it would be direct incentives, whatever we need to attract those flights. And Jennifer can speak to that better than I.
So
but
they come to us
Correct.
when they need it?
Correct.
Very good.
Opportunistic, I guess
Okay,
would be
very
the way
good.
I would frame it.
And it's something that when we get an opportunity, we'll be presenting it to the board. Any agreement with an airline will be contingent upon RSCVA board approval. So you guys will be the first to hear about it.
Great job, too.
And is that based on load factors? Is that how the risk mitigation is figured out?
It takes all different shapes and forms. The JetBlue was worked out to be 10% of their cost to operate flights to Reno over a one-year period. The Oakland mitigation, and those are the only two that we've entered into in terms of that. That one, I think we had guaranteed a certain dollar amount. What we like to do, and the community stakeholders all agree, we prefer to take the money and spend it in marketing to support the airline service. I think that's a little cleaner, but we don't always get to pick.
Great. Mr. Caroselli.
Brian, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that if we have 900 at the end of fiscal 16-17, we roll that into 17-18, but the 17-18 addition is $1.5 million.
No, it's $500,000 in the budget for 17-18, with the goal of ultimately having $1.5 million pot of funds.
Okay, and then the $1.5 million is a roll.
The $1.5 million would stay intact, and if we were to spend, say, $250,000, then in that subsequent year, we would fund $250,000 to fill the pot back
We
up.
would increase the amount to $1.5 million.
Correct.
$1.5 million, right? Okay. And then, just maybe to address something that was, I think Bill or Mike asked, is that one of the ways that this money could be utilized, for example, if outdoor retailers, hypothetically, were deciding to come to Reno, and there were some seat problems, airlift problems, air service problems, some of that money can be used to help mitigate that along with the airport to actually put the deal together and sign for that group to come here.
And again, something like that would come before the board.
Great. Mr. Murdoch. Microphone.
Usually the airport, when their team is out contacting the airlines, and then they'll contact RSCVA, but the airlines will let us know right away in the meeting, hey, yeah, we might serve the market, but you're going to have to come up with some mitigation. They're very, very upfront about it, and then, again, because of the new working relationship, the airport will bring it right back here and team up, and that's how we...
So it's all part of the negotiation, and fortunately, the airlines let you know right up front.
Right.
Very good.
Great. All right. Seeing nothing further at this time, we'll bring it back to the board. It's not an action item at this time, so we will move on to item F3, proposed amendment to RSCVA CEO Phil DeLone's contract. So this was an item that we had discussed at last meeting, and so what I'll do is turn this over to Ms. Rezac at this time to kind of give us a little bit more of a highlight at this point.
Good morning. So you'll recall at the last meeting, Mr. DeLone did do an initial presentation related to goals, but it was also discussed that there was going to be a strategic plan retreat set for August of this year. As even stated earlier by Ms. Mora, oftentimes the CEO goals are surrounded and really made up of that strategic plan. And so the discussion really related to the fact that setting the CEO's goals should be done at that retreat. Therefore, based upon the contract language that sought approval in May after presentation, at least before July 1, because goals run on a fiscal year plan, that the contract be amended so that you could consider and have your strategic retreat and consider the CEO's goals at that August retreat. So what we are proposing today is to have you approve or give authority to Mr. Lucy to enter into an amendment of the CEO's contract, only of section 1.2.2, which discusses fiscal year goals, so that the contract will say that the fiscal year 2017-18 goals will be set at the August strategic plan retreat. Thereafter, the fiscal year goals for 2018 and 19 will again be presented in May for approval before the start of the fiscal year in July of 2018.
Great. Mr. Farahi.
I make the motion. Motion.
I was going to do that just so we can get it on the record, right?
Okay, sir. Whatever you say.
Thank you, sir. So this is we're going to do the kind of the same way we did his original contract by the board. So what I would do is I would make a motion to authorize myself, Bob Lucy, to work with legal counsel and enter into an amendment with Mr. DeLone's contract to change paragraph 1.2.2 to allow for the setting of his fiscal year 2017-2018 goals at the August board retreat of the RSCVA, and that the fiscal year 2018-2019 goals be presented for approval at the May 2018 meeting.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, we are on to finance, G1, fiscal 16-17 budget augmentation. Mr. Rivers.
Thank you. You have before you today the budget augmentation as required by NRS to comply with the statutes. If you'll remember, the fiscal 16-17 budget was approved with the surcharge revenues, but not the approved spend, as we didn't have the retreat and the strategic plan approval until June. Our budget was due by June 1st. So what this is basically the formal approval. It also came back to the board in August for approval, but this is the formal state approval to pull all those dollars in to the spending and transfer buckets necessary. It also augments some surplus dollars that we had allocated throughout the year, as well as some signage to the city of Reno and Sparks, some additional facility revenues and costs associated with that, and there's a detailed breakdown associated with it, as well as the state forms required. But really, it's just a housekeeping item to pull through all of the changes and adjustments we've made throughout the fiscal year.
Any comments or discussions? Questions, Mr. Farahi? Mr. Hicks?
I'm just going to make a motion to approve the augmentation. I'm sorry, question.
Mr. Farahi. Microphone, please.
I see that the golf course revenues decreased by 300,000. Why?
Honestly, the weather's the biggest contributor. As well as the uncertainty.
So are we going to be, I apologize, I don't want to take everybody's time. Are we out of this thing or we are not still?
We're not out of it.
We are not out of it. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions at this time? Then looking for a motion. Second. I have a motion by Mr. Hicks, second by Mr. Caraselli. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are on to now the scope of services for on strategy for fiscal year 17-18. Mr. Rivers.
You have before you today a staff report requesting approval for $112,000 for fiscal 17 with on strategy for reviewing and assisting with the ongoing strategic plan, annual plan, and visitor origination study.
Okay. Any discussion or comments at this time? All right, I'd like to
make a motion that we accept, that we, what we're going to do? Renew it?
Renew it.
Renew it. Renew it. Let's renew it.
I have a motion. I have a motion by Mr. Caraselli. Second, further discussion. You know, I want to just point out, I think On Strategy has done us a phenomenal job. They've worked diligently with our executive staff to continue to adhere to our strategic plan and move that process along. They've helped tremendously. You know, and I believe Mr. DeLone would share the same sentiment that they've helped tremendously with his onboarding and understanding the agency from a number of different aspects. So I want to thank Chelsea and Howard and Erica and your team for all the work that you've done. We really do appreciate the time and effort that you've committed to the RSCVA. So with very pleasure, it's with my great honor and pleasure to continue your contract with us. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. We are on to item H1. Mr. DeLone. Oh, that is going to be...
This is the RASC, and
RASC.
Jennifer will be presenting that today,
Cunningham.
sir.
I couldn't have queued it up better with Marilee, could I have? That was unsolicited, I swear. So my staff report indicates to you in 2013, the RSCVA decreased our contribution to the Regional Air Service Corporation from $200,000 to $100,000. I'm not certain if this came before the board. It could have been an internal decision by the CEO at the time. I am bringing forward the importance of the air service and these funds that are used to market the entire region. In the air service markets, some of it's new markets, and also we use these funds for when an airline is in a market that the airline is not doing well, that they are in jeopardy of pulling. These funds are used to advertise in those markets. Digital, traditional, a lot of digital though, marketing. I did have something I wanted to mention. Oh, it came up with air service and Marilee's comment about when Southwest pulled out and a lot of people were driving. And I had an hour-long conversation actually with the airport just yesterday talking about the LA basin. And surprisingly to me, a lot of people are driving, and we're talking about crafting a message, using RASC funds to talk about air service from LA basin into Reno. And these are the airlines that are flying and getting people out of the cars and into the airplanes. So
When you said a lot, what that means, what percentage from LA basin are driving?
I don't have that figure. We just drilled down to passenger counts and how it's impacted, how it's been.
Maybe I, for one, I truly believe we have a long ways to go. Thank you. Long ways to go to get the message out in LA area. With that huge of a market, now we are flying into 4 airports in that area. You have a great opportunity, and I think you hit the nail on the head. We need to do more marketing to hopefully we can increase our air service from that market.
Absolutely. So with that, I submit my request.
Great, thank you, Ms. Cunningham. You know, and I want to add to something. Mr. Murdoch and I and Ms. Cunningham and all joined the Reno Airport Authority recently to visit Alaska Airlines, and it was definitely proof to me how important RASC serves. And our commitment to RASC serves in getting partners like Alaska Airlines. And we heard that after the post-recession, when Southwest pulled out, Alaska Airlines did stick with us and continued to service a lot of our short-haul markets for us. And we were able to do a lot of those short-haul markets because of the opportunities that were presented through RASC and through the Airport Authority. And so I think to continue those kind of messages, to make sure that we can continue partnerships with members like Alaska Airlines and continue growth with Southwest and a number of our airline partners. It's beneficial for our community. It's beneficial for every entity. It's for all of our hotel partners and business. It's just tremendous. And to Mr. Farahi's point, I'd like to see that 3.65 million passengers get up to that 5 million mark where we were post-recession. I mean pre-recession, and kind of get back to the track. And I think we can do that, and it's all going to be on the efforts and the shoulders of RASC and the Reno Airport Authority, but that support from RASC.
You met with Alaska Airlines. When are they taking over Virgin?
So they are taking over Virgin. That version, the Virgin acquisition has gone through, and they're going to keep, hopefully by the end of 2018, they said that would be complete.
2018?
By 2018.
They won't be Virgin anymore?
They won't be Virgin. It will keep the Alaska Airlines moniker. They're going to they're changing their service model and what they're doing. They're going to add some higher end. They're going to kind of keep the Virgin model, so to speak, and add it to the Alaska Airlines. They're going to do some new planes. They're changing out planes. They're changing out a number of different things, and they're releasing their leases with, and Mr. Murdoch, correct me if I'm wrong, but with Airbus, correct? They're terminating their lease with Airbus. They're getting new planes. They're building in the Virgin model into their.
How is that going to impact us?
Oh, I think what it does for Alaska, and they had the Virgin acquisition guy in there, was in our meeting when Bob was there, Jennifer was there. And I think what was interesting was we're going to get some of Virgin's gates in some of these other cities that Alaska will be feeding through some of their hubs. I don't know that it'll directly impact a Virgin flight into Reno, but at least Alaska will have more passenger opportunities by taking over Virgin, John. I think it just makes them a bigger airline. And for some reason, you know, Chairman Lucy was there. Alaska really likes Reno for some reason. They're really, and they were here when Southwest pulled out. They moved in with those. I know Q400s aren't our most favorite airplane, but they were here. So I think that's.
Does the CEO have a girlfriend here?
I think so. No, I don't know. It's really it's going to be very positive. No. So anyway, it's been good. It'll work out for Alaska and the benefits in the long run. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Yes, Mr. Caroselli.
I have a comment. When we were able to attract JetBlue and actually get them to sign the contract, there was mitigation, as we all know. and the mitigation cost was made up of in-kind and cash, and the annual mitigation was 1.7 million. So what I'm getting at is we are after more legacy flights, which are the cross-country flights. Atlanta's part-time. You want Atlanta to go full-time. We want to go to DC. We want to go to Boston. Those are high-ticket items for mitigation. So what I'm getting at, that's why we have the $1.5 million here. That's why we have to work together with the airport. But and to get us over the top, we really need an increase in our legacy flights. That's what really puts the icing on our cake, but it comes with a cost. You got to pay to play.
Agreed. Mr. Lawson.
I'm just wondering why we're only going up 50,000. Why wouldn't we go back to 200 or 250,000? I mean, we just gave ourselves, we augmented our budget by $2 million or 3.5. Which one?
Depending on which number you look at it, it's a big number. Sales and marketing.
We have an
alone
extra
was
$2 million we didn't count on.
Well, I wouldn't say we have $2 million we didn't count on, but we have the ability, if you wanted to increase it, to make that happen.
I mean, to me, that makes sense to get to that $1.5 million faster, sooner rather than later.
And I agree with you. You know, and I think that's a smart move for us to do, to start moving in that direction. The unfortunate thing, the way we drafted the agenda today, is that we can only add the 50 today, but based upon the discussion, and I think by the Vice Chair's discussion, is that we could bring that back for an additional item in next month's meeting or in a subsequent meeting to add that additional after further review. Mr. Rivers.
Could I just make one point to clarify? The RASC contribution is not part of the risk mitigation pool that we were just talking about. It's two separate pots of money.
This is
just
what
want to make sure
keeps
it's clear.
RASC running, is that 250,000. Yeah.
Mr. Murdoch.
And to Nat's, what he just told us about legacy markets, you remember he mentioned them, but you also have Minneapolis is being looked at again as a nonstop. You're looking at Houston, Reno as a nonstop. So, and Love Field full time, as Marilee mentioned, with Southwest. So there's more markets than just DC and the hopper. There's 4 major cities for nonstop service that, as you all know, that's what we're really after, and that's going to require the mitigation.
And I think that's exactly right. And I think as RSCVA, it's our commitment to continue to support air service. You know, it's a crucial part. It's, you know, as if anybody have had meetings with Mr. Kazmierski, he always talks about his 3-legged stool. I think that you know, air service into Reno is part of one of our legs of our 3-legged stool. And if we can't continue to support air service here, it's very difficult for us to sell convention space and tourism. And so I'd like to make a motion for today to increase to the 150 at this time. So I'm going to make a motion to increase to the 150 at this time. Looking for a second. I have a second by Mr. Caraselli. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Further discussion on this item, we'll bring this back. We'll bring another item back to do another increase in a subsequent meeting here in the future. Yes. Mr.
Just a
Caraselli.
comment. I think in order to help Mr. DeLone and his team to bring more citywide conventions here, which are going to be coming from cross-country, legacy flights that we just talked about are going to be kind of the foundation for helping us get into that business and be competitive and stay in that part of the tourism business, which is big.
Thank you very much. All right, we are on to human resources, National Incident Management System, Incident Management Protocols Policy. Ms. Snell.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We're all aware of what happened in Manchester, England recently, and after that event, Mr. Trent LaFerriere, our facilities service manager, and myself audited our current protocols for responding to incidents and emergencies and found that we had some significant opportunities to standardize our processes. So today we're asking for a resolution. I believe Mr. Kennedy has that for you, to standardize that training at all of our locations so that we can better communicate to our first responders. Washoe County already has signed this resolution. And then we're also asking for some funds. We want to have advanced training for our leaders. That training is provided by Washoe County Emergency Management. And I attached into the memo, it would cost us approximately $2,000 for advanced training for NIMS. So looking for approval to adopt the resolution 582 and funds to provide additional training for our leaders.
Great. Mr. Carusel.
Move to approve.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing no discussion at this time, looking, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Good luck with your training. Item J, board member comments regarding future items. Mr. Lawson.
Just because you want to finish at 10:30, I'm going to gerrymander for 2 minutes. I really do have something. When we're doing items like the budget and whatnot, can you give us some wiggle room on the wording? You know, by adding another sentence to it as 50,000 or whatever the board determines, so that we don't have to hear the same thing over and over and over. When we can come to an agreement today, let's make it happen instead of bringing it back and back and back.
Yeah, I'll
So-
take a look at it. It's just an open meeting law issue and whether.
I
our agenda
understand,
is
but if you
sufficient.
put it or whatever the board determines, then that gives us the room to maneuver within that open
Sure.
meeting law. Thank you.
Okay.
And that's all I'm gonna do.
Oh, dang.
I'm not gonna filibuster all your time.
Okay. Any further comments or discussions at this time? Seeing none, do I have any public comment? I have nothing signed in at this time. We are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.